Welcome to Beyond the Casebooks podcast, where we're redefining the road to law school. I'm Micah, your host, and in each episode, we dive into the unique and inspiring journeys of law students, graduates, and professionals who have navigated the twists and turns of the legal world. Whether you're dreaming of law school, currently in the thick of it, or reflecting on the path you've already walked, this podcast is for you. So let's explore the stories behind the casebooks and discover what it truly takes to succeed in the world of law. Hi, I'm Micah, and this is our new podcast series of Beyond the Casebooks. And we're going to talk with some guests about their unconventional or untraditional route that they took to get to law school and how that journey went. Today we have Edna, and hi Edna, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So let's just get into it. Let's kind of point out some obvious of how your particular journey was different than others.
Yeah.
You know, you are an older person just like myself because I also went to law school later in life.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit, like, how did you get to that point? Where did you decide to go at that point in your life? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started my career after college and all that in accounting. Mm-hmm. And so that's been my baby for 20 years, working in corporate America. And I was very happy doing it. So I had no aspirations, no intentions at all of being a law student until July of 2015. My husband and I were about 5 months pregnant, and I was having some complications, and we called the ambulance. And my husband typically would go with me to the hospital. I have a history of epilepsy, so I'm very familiar with the ambulance. And so this time he couldn't go because our son, who was a year old, has autism. Mm-hmm. And so he couldn't get in the ambulance and do any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he just said, okay, babe, I'm going to leave you with the ambulance and I'll meet you at the hospital. I'm going to call my mom to be with our son. And so I said, okay, cool. And so I went into the ambulance, and the hospital's about 5 minutes away. But it just so happened these guys on this day just felt like they wanted to attack someone. This was just the day for them to just be, less than Christian-like, right? And so they pulled the ambulance over. And I was having contractions and in a lot of pain. And so I was monitoring them because I'd had them for about an hour before I called 911, and I was monitoring them. And after about the second contraction, I knew 10 minutes had passed. Yeah. And we weren't at the hospital. That was 5 minutes away. Mm-hmm. So I asked what happened. And they said, well, we have some things that we need to do. So we stopped. And 30 minutes later, I started to bleed. And at that point, they realized things was serious and got me to the hospital. I ended up hemorrhaging. I miscarried, lost our daughter. And I ended up having some blood transfusions and all this crazy madness. I didn't even think that was real, right? I thought I hallucinated the entire thing. I thought this, because I've been in the ambulance, I've never been mistreated. And so for like a month, maybe longer, I didn't even mention it to my husband. I got the medical bills back and the ambulance bills, and it didn't match up. And I was like, wait, because my daughter's father is a firefighter. And so I could read it, and I'm like, this doesn't add up. So I started telling my husband. Then I got my medical records and realized it was off. They had just manipulated the paperwork and all kind of stuff. So after looking into that, I said, I think this really did happen to me. So because of the epilepsy, I keep my phone's tracking on so that my husband knows where I'm at. So we pulled the metadata and seen it. Everything that happened. So we started reaching out to attorneys in Los Angeles. Nobody wanted to take this case. Nobody. And so I couldn't understand it because, my husband has money. So that's not the issue, right? No one wanted to take it. Well, come to find out, this is the fire department. So this is a public entity. I have to now sue the district attorney. So this was something big. And I said, no wonder none of these attorneys they all want to be in the district attorney's office is what I'm assuming, right? So I said, well, I'm just gonna have to do it myself.
Yeah.
And that's what we decided to do. So we found an attorney that filed the lawsuit for us, but that was as far as she could go. She could help us with a couple of the paper documents, but she said this is just way beyond her scope of understanding as a real estate attorney.
Yeah.
So we had to just do this. So we got into trial court. We lost there. Appellate court, lost there. Filed a petition to the Supreme Court. And this is 5 years later. Find out that the statute of limitations had expired. So I said, okay. I cried and I cried and I prayed and I prayed. My daughter, I lost her. They did this to me. Now what? And so the Spirit of the Lord told me in a dream, if you want justice, you have to go to school. At that time, I was 45. Because I'm over 50 now. And I said, well, I don't think Jesus was talking to me. I'm pretty sure he was not telling a 45-year-old to go back to school. Right? So it took me about a year. And in that time, I was still continuously praying. And so again, it came to me. And so I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try getting a bachelor's in legal studies and see if I even like it, right? So I look up Purdue Global, went there, fell in love with law. And from that point on, I said, okay, I think I want to do this. So I started looking into law schools, but specifically Christian law schools, because I knew if I'm going to go to law school, it has to be something that's a representation of who I am.
Yeah.
And my purpose in life. This is the second phase of my life. I know I'm leaning, at that time I understood I'm moving towards 50. This is a second. I don't even want to do it as for money. My husband makes great money. That's not what I'm trying to do. What am I doing this for? So I'm doing this for the Lord. I know there's people out there that's being abused and victimized, and due process is being destroyed by public entities along with others, right? And so I want to be able to help.
Yeah.
And so I looked up several Christian law schools, and Trinity popped up. And so I said, okay, let's check this out and see what this is about. And I interviewed with Stephanie Vargas. Is that how you say it? Lord, that lady was just phenomenal. Like,
She's very sweet.
Oh my goodness.
Knows her stuff.
I could tell the energy. I said, this is where I want to be. And so we went through the process and I got in. Well, the LSAT was a problem.
Yeah.
Me and that LSAT just did not get along at all. And I tried it, didn't work. Tried it again, didn't work. So Stephanie said, well, we can let you in. I like to call it the trial basis, right? The flex program.
Yes, yeah.
So you can come in that way, right? And I said, okay, cool. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the flex. And I was so excited, but I kind of rode in on a big white horse because I think most people that do well in undergrad kind of assume that you're going to do well in law school.
Yeah.
And so, how Jesus will humble you.
That's putting it very nicely.
I got that first little exam and it was like a 50, and I had never seen a 50 in my life, like ever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I cried.
Yeah.
Right. And then someone explained to me how it works. And I said, okay, all right, so I'll be okay. Let's focus. That first year flew by, man. And I just still didn't make the cut, And I said, now what? Because I didn't get the GPA that Trinity needed me to get. I knew it wasn't over. So I went to another law school. I said, okay. So I went to another law school and I did well. And they tell me you need to take the baby bar because we're, they weren't accredited.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to take the baby bar. So I'm preparing to take the baby bar, and the California bar screwed up. Names deleted in the system. They have everything all wrong. This is COVID. And so I'm like, wait a minute. So what do I do? And they were like, nothing counts. All the work, Trinity, all the work, the other law school, nothing counts. If you want to still be an attorney, you have to do it all over again. So I cried. Here we go again with the tears, Lord. And I said, okay, so I called a friend. And I was really, specific about the friend I called. I called Danielle. And it's because she's military and she's no holds bar. So she's going to tell it like it is. I did not want to call my best friend who was going to just let me cry. And yeah. Danielle was like, suck it up. Ma'am, get it together.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a lesson in contracts. You had a contract to take the bar, even when you failed with Trinity. But it is impossible for you to do that if you're not in the system. So call them back and let them know you can't perform, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, but what about, and she's like, so do you think that you could pass the baby bar? Or do you think if they let you back into flex again, you could pass flex? Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do flex. So I called and they welcomed me back.
That's wonderful.
This time I said, okay, this is going to be, I'm going to work hard because Trinity welcomed me back. Mm-hmm. And I wanted them to see that they didn't make a mistake.
Exactly.
You know, even though I don't think that they would really think that.
I understand what you mean.
But it was my own personal, own personal goal. I appreciate you doing this for me. This is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And I went in and I worked and I got that GPA and then some that time.
Exactly.
And that is it. And so when I first went in, though, I think because the first run with Flex was difficult, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do groups. I didn't want to do anything. And then I had someone say to me, do you actually think that God brought you back just for you? Right? Mm-hmm. So we have a selfish God now. God just does things just for one person that he doesn't, like, that's what he's doing, right? And I was like, pretty much.
I can understand that.
And so, no, he said, no, that's not why you're here. No. You are here to be a helper to God's people. Right? No. And so you need to check that. Yeah. I went home and I cried. Lord, I don't need to cry no more. But I changed. When I started, I said, okay, Lord, just guide me to the right people.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what he did. So even during that flex time where I passed that and I started that next semester, I have mentored so many people with Trinity that have passed, that have gone into different law schools, that have come back and did the third semester. And I'm still mentoring people. Yeah. And I think that is the biggest blessing for me.
Yeah.
Is being able to mentor. And so I can see now why God brought me back. Someone once told me that you being obedient to God's will means that in order for somebody else to be blessed, right, you have to be obedient to God's will because their blessing is dependent on your obedience. And I always think about that now. I'm like, man, okay, Lord, help me to stay on track because somebody is waiting on a blessing and I don't want to detour them. Right? They probably, because we know we can't even thwart the blessings God has for us, right? When he promises he's going to give us something, we can detour it because we have free will. I do believe that. Yeah. Like I can go left when he wants me to go right, but I'm still going to get that blessing. It's just going to be delayed.
Yes.
Because God his word never returns void. Right. And so that's been the best thing as I wrap up, prepare to wrap up law school now and step into this world that I'm so not familiar with, but so excited to be in. Yeah. The best thing for me has been mentorship.
I know you're in your last semester. So then you'll be done and taking the bar in July. Yep. And so even though we didn't have classes together, I've already graduated, but I've seen you around for a couple of years now. And you definitely have made an imprint in my mind. You're always such a positive cheerleader, and which is really wonderful because, law school is very hard. Yeah. And it's very lonely and defeating. And I will, whenever I see those 1Ls, it's like, oh, they're happy now. They're going to be crying soon. But it's wonderful to have a smiling face, and you do definitely, you're a cheerleader at school, and that is a huge blessing for everybody. So that's really wonderful. And I'm very sorry that the ordeal that you experienced, but it looks like we can see what that was meant to do and, for you to help others with that.
I think I'm not sorry. It was hard, but I've had a hard life. I mean, life is not easy, right? but I've also had some fun, and I've been listen, my sinful life, I had fun. I really did. Like I went all out for Satan. So I'm definitely going out all out for the Lord, right?
That's good.
But I don't regret it. Right? I really don't. I don't regret it because everything that I've gone through has made me who I am. And so even that ordeal, as painful, the beautiful thing about God's blessings is we understand his word. If you know the word of God, the word of God says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. But there's nowhere in that Bible that it says no weapon will be formed. Right?
Yeah.
And so there's a scripture that I stand on, Jeremiah 29:11. And it says, for I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future. There's no other scripture for me because when you really think about, for I know the plans I have for you and they're to prosper you, it doesn't matter what you go through.
Yeah.
He knows that I'm going to be a little heathen when I was in my little heathen era. He knew that. And he allowed me to use that free will to a certain point.
Yes.
Because he knew the plans he had for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so all that pain and the things I went through strengthened me.
Yeah.
Right. To be what I need to be today. So I don't regret it because I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have met you, all the other people. I wouldn't have met them. And we know God has something phenomenal planned for me, over 50 years old and graduating law school. He has something big in store.
Yes.
And I had to go through that pain, right? That pain drove me. It drove me through the undergrad program at Purdue. It drove me through Trinity because I had a purpose. It was a purpose-driven journey. I wanted to get through it because I said, there are some things that need to change. But the first thing is ignorance. I was ignorant to what my constitutional rights are. I was ignorant to what police can do to me. I was ignorant or can't do. I was ignorant to what these public people, when they come, what their duties are and how they breach them.
And what rights you have. Yeah.
I had no idea what my rights were. I mean, growing up Black, you always know there's a certain level of rights that you have as a Black woman, as a minority. Sure. Right. But that comes with so much aggression and anger. This is something different. This comes with power. Right. There's no anger. There's power in understanding your rights. There's power in law.
Exactly. And I'll say that is a huge motivator for myself.
Yeah.
Is that to feel like we know what our rights are. And to give you that power to not be pushed around, to not be walked on. I mean, those things are going to happen regardless, but to feel that we have the knowledge.
How to navigate
fight back in that way, not physically.
Right.
I'm not a fighter in that way, but, to understand our rights and our rights as Americans and our, rights in this country. And so that's really excellent. And so a lot of people, because we're older and going back to school, like what advice would you give to those people that are like us, that are like, that was a dream, I'm past that time, or on the fence, like what, because you have a family, you have kids, you have a disabled, autistic child, you've had other paths that brought you to where you are, which is excellent. But what would you offer to some of those other people, especially other women that have put that in the back burner?
You know what?
Their dreams.
I think it's about, first of all, just really, my resolve is always in the Lord, right? And so I always have to pray and really understand what God wants for me. Like at this age, you know what I mean? And I've been in church and loving the Lord. I was baptized, I think I might have been like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And so he's been walking with me. And so my resolve is in him. And so I would say to a person, if you know that this is what God is calling you to be, whatever that thing is, whether it's law school or whatever, you have to pray and ask him to guide you, right? And he's going to guide you. He is going to sustain it. If it's what it's meant for you, if it's meant for you, finances will be taken care of. If you're going to pray on something, as my dad would say, if you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, why pray? Right? What's the purpose? And so you have to have faith that if God has me on this path, he's going to sustain it. Right? Financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you just have to accept it. Accept the challenge. I think that's the first step. Yeah. Say to yourself, I'm going to do this, because that's what I did. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to law school. Let's see what that looks like. Let's look for grants. Let's look for scholarships. Let's see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Because I accepted the challenge. So I would say, don't allow, as the scripture says, lean. The one of the scriptures in the Bible says, trust in the Lord with all your heart.
And lean not on your own understanding.
Yes, ma'am. You cannot lean unto your own understanding, because what God has for us, we just will never understand it. Why he loves us so much, we will never know until we meet him.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to just have faith. Okay, if you have me on this, if this is my purpose, then he's going to lace that path with the financial aid, the grants, the scholarships. He's going to lace it with the babysitters. He's going to lace it with clothes that you may need, whatever it is. But you have to step into it.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's not to, like, even though God is definitely going to, make the path for us and make those things happen, that it still will be hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what is that saying? Nothing worth having is easy, or I'm probably butchering
Anything
it.
worth having is worth working for. I think something like that.
It's being butchered right now, but it's hard. But at the end of it, as somebody who just finished law school, you feel so much, just feel so empowered.
Yeah.
It was hard. You cried a lot.
Yeah.
I've cried with other friends from school, probably moments when I've seen you right before I see you, I was crying or something, but you feel so accomplished that you did it. And if that's as far as you went with it, it just feels like that journey is complete, and it's wonderful. And so what kind of tips would you suggest for somebody who's preparing to take that leap? Maybe that you kind of wish you maybe knew, or little ideas of what maybe they should try to work on as they're applying or as they're moving towards that direction?
You know what? I think the biggest thing, being married, right? The biggest thing in having children, especially having an autistic son, was time management. I don't think I understood, although I seen it.
Yeah.
In the syllabus and orientation, and they tell you, I did not think, because I didn't have to spend that kind of time in undergrad, right? I just didn't.
Yeah.
So law school requires a level of time that you will not be prepared for. And so you have to carve that time out. You also, for studying, for going to law school, this is self-time, right?
Yeah.
You have to carve it out. You have to pay attention to that. I wish I would have written it down the way that Trinity had told me to, because I was so unbelievably overwhelmed. I sat in front of my computer all day. I mean, up in the morning in front of the computer, and I left to go to class, and that was it. And then back at it, and then to bed. I didn't have time to do anything. Like my husband, bless his heart. I mean, he ended up being like the chef, the maid, the babysitter, the husband, the wife. He was everything. That first year, I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I would tell someone, make sure that you carve out that time. And if you're married and if you have children, know what that looks like for them, because quality time, self-time, right? Quality time with your children and quality time with your spouse is so important. And I didn't know how to do that, I mean, at all. I struggled with it. Even after I went and I made it through that flex program, even after that, I struggled, right? I struggled with time management. Before law school, I lost 100 pounds, and I was exercising, and I had my time with my daughter, had my time with my son, had quality time with my husband. I lost it all. Gained 100 pounds during law school. And everybody was like, it's okay. We all did.
Not the freshman 15. It's like the freshman 50.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah,
Everybody I know looks a lot different from
right. It was like the freshman. It was like the freshman 25, the sophomore 25.
Every year.
The 3L 75.
Pandemic in it.
Oh. Yeah, it was. I was good for the pandemic. It was after. And it was really because I didn't know how. I started to say, if I go to the gym, I can't brief my cases.
Yeah.
If I do this, I can't do that. Right.
That guilt of doing something for yourself.
It was very difficult for me.
Studying or working on your homework.
And so I would say, manage your time. Look at your time. See what you have.
Figure it out.
You're working. See, I'm blessed because, like I said, my career, I run my own CPA firm. And I've been doing it for 15 years now. And so that's my life. That's my day job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I didn't have to work. I was able to tell my CEO, who just so happens to be my best friend in life, that I need you to just handle this, right? And I'm going to figure this out because I failed this first year. I'm going to go back and I can't work. And I really don't think that you should. And I know we have to make money. I say just pray on it.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people do well. They work and they can still get through law school. It's not like it's impossible.
Yourself.
Yeah. And you have to be very organized. Right? But it was not happening for me.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had to back off. And this is my own company. And I had to back off.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you're able to take a step back, evaluate what needed to be changed.
Yeah.
What priorities could take a little bit of a backseat, and how to still be a wife and a mother and a good law student and get through it.
Yes.
And that is important. And I think a lot of people think that you do one or the other and that is it. And so if you're a wife and a mother, then forget anything else. And that's fine for some people. And that's perfectly acceptable, and everything. But you did have this feeling in you that you were supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah.
And also, some people think law school's it. Everybody else can just be placed on hold for 3 to 4 years. And that's not realistic. That might be realistic 20 plus years ago if you'd had no bills, no spouse. But, just as God brought you in this direction, he also brought your husband and your children in your life for a reason. And you can't just ignore them for 3 or 4 years.
That's why time management is big. Yeah. Like, you have to set up those date nights. I was telling a young lady and her husband who came to the interview, came to orientation. Yeah. And I was meeting and just mingling as I do. And I was telling them, set your date night right now. I'm serious.
Get it in the books.
Don't even play with me.
Yeah.
Set your date night. People are getting divorced in law school. It's legit happening. Yeah. Right? Set your date night. My husband and I are diehard New England Patriot fans, right? And so that was our date night. Right?
That's good. Put it in something you really like doing.
Well, date night. And we had to because it would be difficult. Like, he needs that time. And to be honest with you, so did I.
Yeah.
I needed that time. I needed that time to just vent and be loved and let it go. And I also needed time with my son, and he needed me and my daughter. And so you have to know those hats, and you have to set time for it. And you have to be intentional. Don't just walk into law school like undergrad. Oh, you will just get humbled. Yeah. It's not the same, but you can do it. It's hard. It's harder than undergrad, but it's so worth it, especially looking at it now at the end. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've cried again. It's just what I do for the last month because I knew it was ending. Yeah. And so I'm reflecting and I'm like, my God, like, yo, I did this. We did this. You know what I mean? And so it's like just reflecting on 2020 to 2025. And it's like this time next. So now I'm like sending messages to like all of the cohort, like, this time next year, we're going to be attorneys. Yeah. Right. And they're all laughing. But it's so cool to think that like, we started this and we finished it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's really important to point out because we, have families that they earned it too. They earned a JD in a way.
I told my husband, you're walking across that stage with me, buddy. You wearing the hat or the gown?
Whenever you're on, they are there. You need that support system.
Yeah.
And to help you get back up when you're on the floor crying over a casebook or a brief or the cold call or all those struggles that we go through.
Or just listening, right?
Yeah, just listening to you complain. I mean,
just
my husband,
listening.
Every semester around finals, I wanted to quit. He's like, well, you can if you want to. Mm-hmm. But I knew he was just calling my bluff, right? Of
course.
Like, well, let's see what the grades are. Let me get through one more semester. And so,
that's how you saved yourself.
That's the only mental switch I could do, is that pretend it in short terms.
No.
Once I saw the long road, oh my goodness, the panic would set in.
It's set in. You know what I would do? This was me. Okay, so my GPA is a 3.4 right now. All right, so I'm just going to do the math real quick. So if I just get all D's, like, it'll still be a 3.2. I have nothing to lose here.
I know. How close of the line can you get? I asked Google that or those little calculators. How close to the line can I get but still graduate?
Yeah.
And all these little hypotheticals. But if I get this one good, this will carry this one. And, I don't know if you did it, but, when you see people in your class, because it was graded on a curve, you're like, those two got to beat. Even though I'm not going to look at their stuff, I'm not going to be, and they could be the sweetest person on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But if I had that mentalness, like, I got to beat them, and that's not good, because they could be your friends. And that's why I didn't want my friends in my class. I'm like, don't be in my class. I don't want to be graded
all of
up
my
against
friends
you.
and I, we made a pact.
Yeah.
We tried it one time.
Yeah.
Right? We tried it one time. It's so funny. And me and one of my good friends now, Taisha, she says, well, we can do it. It won't be bad. It'll be fun. We'll just study. Why did we end up with the exact same percentage? Right? But here's the thing. I got the higher grade because of the curve, and she got the lower. She went ballistic.
Oh my gosh.
She complained. Oh, registrar didn't want to see her coming. They changed that grade. No, I think it was just a great argument, right? Because
and
it was identical. So you should have just gave us both like B's or whatever, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like she was like, no, I will not get a C. Yeah. No, I will not with the same exact percentage as you. Yeah. And I was like, ma'am, we can't do this no more.
Yeah,
this is stressful.
I had my last semester with my friend, and we sort of studied, but I found me instinctively wanting to hoard my notes.
No.
I'm like, I love her. I want her to succeed, but not more than me. And now as she watches this, we may not be friends. I'm just kidding.
No, she loves you and she
probably
knows.
Did the same thing to me. But it's that feeling, like you're a little bit of a competition.
Yeah. Little competition doesn't hurt.
For the most part, we didn't share. We had same classes, but not the same time.
Yeah.
So that is another thing I would definitely recommend when you make friends. But it's good to have those allies.
Well, I think you have to understand the curve, because law school, like I said, it's different. And I didn't really understand the ranking and the curve and how that works. So it didn't dawn on me that we're literally in competition with one another until the next time I came back.
Yeah, there's your grade for the assignment or the exam, but then there's the curve, and that can really hit you or bring
help
you up.
you.
So
So if you know that, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much stuff. Boy, you guys are going to have to do a lot of these podcasts, because there's so much stuff.
Oh, we will.
There's so much stuff to talk about, right?
There is.
I'm like, what time is it?
We only have so much time, but let's talk about your next steps, because I know you're in your last semester.
Yeah.
You're planning on taking the bar in July. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that looks for after? Are you going to take some time like right after the bar? Or are you still exploring that? Because I know sometimes it's hard to type. That's kind of a limbo, especially since you have to wait like 4 or 5 months before we find out.
Right.
If we pass, it's like the worst waiting ever.
Yeah.
So, I
think, you know what? I'm so excited, because I was actually very intentional about law school. Now, that first year, that had to be, I like to tell people that failure in the first year, even though failure sounds horrible, but I mean, when you really think about it, who has ever been successful that did not fail? Right?
Yeah.
It's impossible to be successful without failure, right?
Yeah.
And so that failure, it was a setback to set me up.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time, like God set me back to set me up, because coming back, I was wiser. I was stronger. I knew exactly what I needed to do.
Exactly.
Right. And so I was focused.
Yeah.
Because I had taken it. I had done it before, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm focused. I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. And so in these last 3 years now, I've looked at these classes and I've studied and I've paid attention and I've found love, right? I have no desire to be a litigator. Thanks, Professor Rogers in Moot Court. Don't call me.
Don't call me.
I don't want to be in front of a judge. I might be able to talk to you, but no,
I understand.
I understand. Now listen.
I forget my own name when I've had to do that.
Now, if I have memorialized a contract for a client and she is in litigation, I'm coming for you, right? I'm coming for you because that's my contract, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So yeah. But other than that, no, transactional law is where I'm going to live. I absolutely love contracts, property, estate planning, your husband, that class, although it was difficult, it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
It was very, wills and trust, estate planning is very rewarding.
Yes.
Right?
I do find
it's an area now in my community. A lot of my community, we are not familiar with estate planning. We hear the term have your affairs in order, but we all still have family that die with a hashtag and a GoFundMe. We don't even understand it. We don't understand they have property, they're losing it. And so that class was something, it was the last thing that I thought was going to trigger, my little happiness. And I'm like, whoa, okay, yes, this is it. So that was like the cherry on top of the transactional law for me. I said, this is it. Because these are areas where I can give back to the community. And it's also areas that I can enjoy working in. Yeah. And so while right now, actually, I just got a call from a law firm that's willing to allow me to come in to intern in estate planning.
Wonderful.
Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah, you said, mentioned like just a couple days ago.
You told me, you were like, well, just call them or email them. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. You have nothing to lose. You already don't have it. So the worst is they say no.
So I just did it. I just looked it up and I just did it. And they were like on LinkedIn. And she was like, I would love to have you come in.
That's so wonderful.
And she was like, so my paralegal is getting ready to take the bar and he's new. I got to train him anyway. I can train you both. All you have to do is just give me some of your time, answer some calls. And I was like, no problem. So I know that in the process of just waiting, I'll be doing
That's great.
Getting
that experience.
Getting the experience. Yeah. And I don't have to do it. Like they don't have to hire me per se because I'm still being spoiled. Right. You just 16 years of marriage. He's just all in it. Right. He's budgeting just for this. Right.
Oh, that's
and sweet. So it's such a blessing. So I can now just really go, okay, if you don't have the funds or, whatever to hire someone like a new law clerk or whatever, that's fine. I just really want the experience.
Yeah.
Because my mind is still so geared towards CPA, law, or CPA and accounting. And so I have to start looking into life as an attorney, right? Which is something I now tell my mentees, like, you need to start thinking like an attorney.
Exactly.
Dressing like an attorney.
Yeah.
I need you to come out of your Jordans and put you on some heels, right? I need you to think like an attorney. It will make life so much easier. If you walk into these classes and you're saying to yourself, this is my plaintiff, right? How am I'm taking evidence. And evidence is giving me the business because it's so much, everything has to be relevant. And I said, okay, I need for somebody to tell me the purpose of this, right?
Yeah.
And someone said, the purpose is to get your piece of evidence in. I was like, oh.
That's it?
That's it? Oh, well, then it's on.
It's on.
So now every time I'm reading like the hypos or the cases, I'm like, that's my plaintiff and that's my writing. Oh, it's getting in. And so now I have a whole new outlook going into evidence
That's
too.
a really good tip. Actually,
Yeah, like I'm thinking this is my client.
Yeah.
And I even think like I started writing better on my midterms and finals when I was thinking like that as well.
That's
because I'm looking at it going, I have to represent you. And being a football lover, we all know the best offense is to know that defense, right? And so if you know what the defense is going to come for you, you can already beat them to the punch. And so that's my mindset. But you only will have that if you're really thinking like an attorney.
Yeah.
A lot of my mentees are thinking like students. If you're coming to law school, walk in the door thinking like an attorney, right? You have to. You have to, and it'll make it so much easier. I wish I would have known that when I walked in, because I walked in there thinking like a student, right? And it didn't work for me. I didn't understand the purpose of these areas of law. It's 13 areas of law. Each one has a purpose. And then, the kicker, you're at the end and you realize it all comes together. I'm like, wait a minute.
Kind of like the...
Are you kidding me?
I mean, not the most recent ones, but the M. Night Shyamalan movies, how it used to be like that. Like the
Exactly.
Sixth Sense. Oh, now I see it.
Now you see it. I was like, now I understand it. Now I don't have to look at everything like contract law, tort law, property law, with the exception of the best thing that you ever learn in law school is how to issue spot, right? Because what kind of attorney can you be if you can't spot an issue?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so that IRAC, the writing, was the biggest takeaway for me as an attorney, because I can see talking to a client where I'm going to need to know when you're talking to me what issue are we negligence?
Yeah, exactly.
Are we in criminal law? Is this an intentional tort situation? I need to know that.
Yeah.
And then I know the rule. And if I don't know it, I can look it up, because now that you're out of law school, you don't have to memorize it.
I don't have that rush.
Right. I can just pull it up. Right.
Like an exam rush, or
I can Google it. I can ask AI. AI knows. Right. But when I'm talking to a client, I need to be able to IRAC them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the one thing that I'll take away from law school, like immediately, even with working in law before I even passed the bar, just understanding what my boss is telling me, what are the issues that I need to deal with, what are those rules, and I think I'll do well like that. But that's what I'll be doing while I'm waiting to get, while I'm
that's a
just
good
getting
plan.
that. I mean, I even said I would, contact the DA's office just to have a little experience on that side of law. What does that look like?
Yeah, definitely.
Especially since the district attorney in the lawsuit that I fought, he actually gave me a letter of recommendation. District attorney for Los Angeles.
Wonderful.
He gave me a letter of recommendation for law school.
That is really wonderful.
To Trinity. Yeah. After everything because he told me during the case, the 5 years, he said, listen, you have been phenomenal, right? And I think you missed your calling, right? And if you ever decide to go to law school, call me. Well, of course, I just lost. And the last thing I want to do is go to law school, right?
Yeah.
But look at God, right? And so when all this did, come to fruition, I called him. And he was like, I would be delighted. And he wrote me out a letter of recommendation.
That is wonderful. That is so
God had it all.
That is
So that's what I mean. God had it all. It was all planned. This was all ordained.
And I think a lot of people think a lot of the what they call failures or their downside of the hill, that means give up. But there's a reason that God wanted you to go through that.
Yeah.
To make you a better person than where you need to be.
Stronger.
And humble us too, because if we go in there already at the top, then we only give praise to ourselves, right?
That's it.
We did it ourselves.
Oh, that's the truth.
You had quite a roller coaster getting there.
Yeah.
But you're there. You're almost done.
Yeah.
You're going to be taking the bar soon.
Yeah.
And when we do our follow-up to see where are you now, and you pass that bar exam.
I'll be working with you.
Yes. And
so where are you now? Well, I'm on lunch break because you told me I had an hour. Exactly.
And then we'll have our power suits.
Yes. We got to have a power suit.
Yeah.
So we have
we'll
to pull that.
from our student suit to our power suit.
To our power suit. What was the name of that movie? How to Get Away with Murder? Did you ever see that series
show?
on Netflix?
I only saw a couple episodes when it came out.
Oh my
Probably
goodness.
didn't have cable or something.
Viola Davis was Annalise Keaton.
I do like that actress a lot.
Clothes was fabulous.
I will have to watch it. And
well, the show was crazy.
I think it's on Netflix.
It's criminal. It's criminal law, but her clothes. Oh, talk about power.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
Well, don't give it away now, because now I got to put it in my queue and go watch it.
Yes. I just want to go back and watch all of the episodes when she was in court and just buy those outfits.
Oh, okay.
That's
I felt that way about The Good Wife. I mean,
yes.
The show is a little bit older, so maybe update, but I really liked her suits.
Yes. There was another one too.
She looks. They did the Good Fight, a spinoff. I only watched a little bit of that one, but I was like, I like those suits.
Looks so nice.
I feel so much more confident. I feel confident just watching her.
You could just win a case in that suit.
Exactly.
It's a win your first case suit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey and all the advice and tips. I know a lot of people will be thankful to hear it, and it gives hopefully other people, that hope that it's not too late to go for your dreams. And if God's talking to you, listen.
He'll work it all out. He'll work out the details.
Exactly. And for those people on the fence, or those people that are actually still in it right now in law school, and they're crying over a case book, they're like, there is a light to the end of the tunnel.
It is.
It will get better. You will get through this. It is hard.
Yeah.
But, that's how you know it was worth it.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
yeah. Yeah, the devil the devil doesn't break into your house to take water.
Yeah.
So whatever he's attacking, it's worth something.
Yeah. My mother had something that she always would say, I must be doing something good, must be doing something right. Got the devil all uptight.
Oh, love it. Keep him uptight.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I can't wait to follow up with you later in the year.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you, Micah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Casebooks podcast. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Online Law Coach for updates and behind-the-scenes content. You can also watch full episodes and more on our YouTube channel, The Online Law Coach. Don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Casebooks podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay up to date on new episodes. We'd love for you to leave a review and share your thoughts. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, keep redefining the road to law school.